there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, I'm going to let you know about tonight's author. I know you guys are eager to hear more Bonesaw Vic from T.W. Grimm, so let me tell you a bit more about T.W. Grimm. He's got a new book, just out, right now. I'm saying like, right now. It's called A Different Kind of Magic by T.W. Grimm, given reviews like masterful, and if you love Bonesaw Vic, you're going to love more stories. Check out A Different Kind of Magic, available now on Amazon. You can get it in the link in the description down below. And now, on to tonight's story. I picked up the phone, and to my absolute horror, I discovered it was my mom on the other end of the line. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I hated my mom or something, but God rest her soul, that lady was the very definition of passive-aggressive. She brushed aside my attempts at small talk and asked, "Why don't you call us every now and then? You never call home anymore." I started to say that's not true, but she cut me off, manufacturing a dry, raspy cough. When she was done with her imaginary coughing fit, she said, "I don't know what's wrong, but I've been coughing a lot. Maybe I have something, I don't know. You know, cancer runs in the family, right? Your Uncle Raymond had cancer." I muttered. Uncle Raymond smoked 2 packs a day and looked anxiously at the clock on the wall. I had to get going as soon as possible. Time was ticking away. "Sure, go ahead and dismiss what I'm saying," Mom responded in a pouty tone, and she coughed again for emphasis. "Everyone's always dismissing me around here. Your father, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, all of them. They never listen to a word I say. I told your father, if this cough gets any worse, I want you to take me to a doctor. And you know what he said to me? Nothing. He just turned up the TV a little more and went back to his newspaper." I grunted. "Mom, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." She made an outraged sound in her throat and snapped, "When did you become a doctor, When did that happen? You must be pretty good if you can diagnose me over the phone." I closed my eyes and groaned. "Will you give it a rest? Stop making yourself cough before you actually hurt yourself, okay? Look, I gotta go. I got this thing I need to do for work. You know how it is. I'll call you on Monday, okay? Say hi to Dad for me." "I have no idea what you do for work these days," she said coldly. "Seems like everything is a big mystery with you anymore. Well, before you go, I should tell you that the police came here to ask some questions about you." I froze for a moment, and Mom patiently waited for my response. I swallowed hard and croaked, "What kind of questions?" "They were very personal questions," she muttered in a disapproving tone. I just shrugged and told them, "I don't know what to say. Everything's a big mystery these days. He almost never calls." That's what I told them. Faintly, I mumbled, "Right, okay, okay. Thanks for letting me know." There were a few seconds of silence as she waited for further clarification. When she realized I wasn't going to elaborate, she angrily cleared her throat and demanded, "Well, why were these 2 homicide detectives asking me questions about you? Did you kill somebody? Did you see someone get killed? Good gravy, what the heck is going on with you?" I stammered, Nothing's going on, Mom. I didn't kill anyone, nor did I see anyone get killed. I saw nothing, and I know nothing. I have no idea why they showed up at your door. Swear to God." She grumbled, "You swear to God. Kids these days don't even believe in God. You all listen to that music and smoke your drugs. Now, tell me the truth, kiddo. Did you kill someone? Did you kill a prostitute?" I slapped my free hand against the wall and choked. "Why would you assume it was a prostitute, Mom? Holy shit. Is that what you think of me? Well, everything's a mystery with you anymore." She shot back, "You're so secretive, and you never have a girlfriend. I think it's very strange that you don't go on any dates with girls." I shouted, "That's because I'm awkward, not because I want to kill them. I can't believe you. I mean, you could have just assumed I'm gay or something, but no, you went straight to me being a freaking serial killer?" She shot back, "Don't yell at your mother. I'm not the one who has the police on their trail. Oh, I should also remind you, it's your Aunt Glenda's birthday on Sunday. Did you get her a card?" I shook my head and muttered, "I've literally never given Aunt Glenda a birthday card. She lives on the other side of the country. I've only met her 3 times in my entire life, and she also thinks I'm someone else. That's no excuse. I'm pretty sure they have mailboxes on the other side of the country. You better get her a card or you won't be in her will." I grunted. Damn, I was hoping she'd leave me her collection of fine china. Easy come, easy go. Speaking of which, I gotta go now. Work stuff and all that jazz. Talk to you Monday. Bye. I hung up the phone and resisted the urge to give it a slap. I'd been hoping the cops had given up on squeezing me for information about Vincent, but I should have known better. I briefly considered calling Vinny the Pomp, but I decided it would have to wait. I had a more pressing matter at hand. I had to find Kaz. I needed his guidance, and I needed it immediately. I'd never been to the zoo on a weekend before. The first thing I noticed was how dark and foreboding the garden seemed behind the towering fence. The second thing I noticed was that the gate was locked. I couldn't get in. Couldn't buzz for assistance either. If I used the intercom, the security goons would know I was there. I put my head in my hands and moaned, "Why is it locked? Why?" It was 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning and the zoo was closed. Of course it was locked. How did I not foresee this? For God's sake, how? Shit. Fuck. God damn it. I sat there in my idling car and considered my options. I'd been hoping I'd be able to sneak into a building without being seen, but couldn't even get past the frickin' gate. Bingo bango, my half-baked plans were already dead in the water. I smoked a cigarette in the dark. Still tasted really bad to me, but at least I wasn't getting lightheaded anymore. I lit another one and tried to think of another way around this particular roadblock. I needed to find Kaz, but I had no idea where to look. The only way to find him was to convince Miss Dahlia to give me his address and phone number, which might prove to be a difficult task all by itself. After all, the caretakers weren't supposed to talk to each other outside of work. It was expressly forbidden. There were two major barriers between me and Miss Dahlia. One barrier was the presence of 2 or 3 heavily armed dickheads who might be wandering around the zoo. The other was a literal barrier, 20-foot wall of reinforced steel. And even if I managed to get past both of those formidable objects, I would still have another problem waiting for me. A very large and angry problem called Lenny the Barber. After the stunt I pulled to get him out of my hair, there was no doubt that Len was going to be furious with me. But that was a concern for later. I had many life-threatening scenarios ahead of me before I had to face that particular hornet's nest. According to zoo protocol, one guard was supposed to be monitoring the video cameras at all times, but I knew from working the midnights that they rarely paid attention to the cameras. They almost never patrolled the grounds. They spent most of the nights taking turns sleeping in a broom closet. Now, don't get me wrong, I can understand their lax attitude. I mean, what was going to happen? Was the thief going to break in and steal the fucking goblin? If someone actually managed to get into one of the habitats, they'd probably be murdered on the spot. I rubbed my palms against my ears and told myself, figure out how to get past the gate first. One problem at a time, man. I couldn't get in by myself, so was there anyone who could help me? Sprites? Very doubtful. They seemed like they were all about law and order, and I was trying my best to commit trespassing. If not the sprites, who could possibly help? A light bulb went off in my head. I tossed a stone against the fence and called out, "Clara, can you hear me? Over here!" I held my breath and waited. Within a few moments, I heard a faint scratching against the other side of the gate. It sounded like claws. I knelt down beside the fence and said, "I need to get inside, but the gate's locked. It's really important. Can you help me, Clara? I don't have much time." I held my breath and waited to see what would happen next. Within a minute or two, a circular patch of earth started to crumble inward on my side of the fence. 2 fuzzy antlers emerged from the hole, along with a pair of long ears, a twitching nose, and a wide fan of whiskers. Clara blinked in the glare of my headlights, and then she disappeared back into the hole. I shut off my engine, grabbed a flashlight out of the glove box, and crawled into the hole. It was actually a tunnel. It was just exactly wide enough for me to worm my way to the other side. The tunnel sloped downward beneath the buried portion of the fence and rose back up to exit a few feet from the other side. I suddenly realized that Jackalope could escape the zoo at any time that she felt like it. She was only there because she chose to stay. For Clara, the zoo wasn't a prison. It was a home. She greeted me at the top of the tunnel by licking my nose and poking me in the eye with her antler. I muttered, "Ow," and gave her a vigorous petting. I whispered, "You're the best bunny rabbit in the whole world. You're friggin' greatest." She followed along as I furtively stole my way across the gardens. I skirted the main entrance and let myself into a service tunnel through one of the exit doors. I found myself standing in the aviary wing, and all was dark and quiet as a tomb. I tiptoed down the corridor like a cat burglar and punched in the code for the pneumatic door, wincing as the deadbolts drew back with a series of bangs and clanks. I had no idea what I would say if I got caught by a security guard. Even if I could convince him I wasn't doing anything wrong, it would still get back to Vic, and Vic would definitely want to know why I was there. I just couldn't get caught, that's all. It simply wasn't in the equation. I stuck close to the wall in the main lobby, trying my best to be invisible. It was gloomy in there, and the silence was thick. When I made it to the door that led to the reception area, I breathed out a long, deep sigh of relief. Everything was going according to plan. I opened the door and walked right into one of Victor's security thugs. He had one of Vic's cigars clenched in his teeth, and 3 more were sticking out of his jacket pocket. We stared at each other in shock for a moment. Then he grabbed the front of my jacket and growled, "Looky here. It's new guy, Bobby Dipshit or whatever." I squeaked, "Billy Whitebread," and he responded by shaking me like a baby rattle. He said, "I don't give a shit about your name. What I do care about is why you're here." I tried to push his hands away, and I sputtered, "I got Vic's permission. He said it was okay if I came back tonight. I had to..." My mind went blank. Why did I need to come back? I opened my stupid mouth and blurted out, "I had to get some stuff out of my locker." The guard snapped. "First of all, Vic would have let us know if you were coming. No one shows up here unannounced, not ever. Second, your locker ain't in the reception area." He shoved me back into the lobby, and my mind seized up with an overload of panic. I was fucked. I was completely and utterly fucked. As the security guard was manhandling me into the lobby, a streak of brown suddenly came blazing in from out of nowhere. It slammed into the goon like a cannonball. Wham! The impact made him slide 15 feet across the floor. I let out a strangled cry of surprise and shock. I could scarcely believe it, but my rescuer was Clara. She hopped over to stand on his chest and aggressively sniff at his unconscious face. She must have snuck in behind me when I slipped in through the exit door. When she was satisfied the guard was no longer a threat, she hopped over and leaned against my leg. I looked down at her with my mouth hanging open and whispered, "Holy hell, did you just kill that guy?" From behind me, Miss Dahlia called out, "You better hope not. That young fellow is Victor's nephew." I poked my head through the doorway and saw her standing beside the waterfall. The water had been shut off for the weekend, and the pool was dark and still. She looked sleepy and irritable in a frumpy nightgown. She saw the puzzled expression on my face and scowled at me. "What did you expect?" she demanded. "It's the middle of the night. Stop gawking at me and drag him over here. I can save him." At first, I thought she was being a little dramatic. The guard didn't look that bad. But then I saw a pool of blood oozing from the back of his head. I groaned, "Oh, fuck me." I started dragging him by the ankles into the reception area. I was already huffing and wheezing by the time I pulled him past the threshold. The guy was built like a refrigerator. Miss Dahlia said, "Bring him over to the pool. Hurry up." I can hear his heartbeat fading. I gasped, "Yeah, mine isn't doing so good either. Can you maybe give me a hand, please? He's a really big guy." The water nymph gave me a sour look and rolled up the sleeves of her nightgown. She grabbed him by one leg and effortlessly dragged him over to the side of the pool. She dripped a palmful of water across his face, and as the droplets rolled down his cheeks, she softly sang to him in a dialect that was probably older than humankind. Her voice was entrancing. It made me feel at peace. The thug focused his eyes on her face. He touched the back of his head and croaked, "Why am I on the floor?" "You had an accident," she murmured in a soft voice. "You slipped on the floor and fell. You should be more careful next time." He blinked up at her with a dazed expression and mumbled, "I slipped and fell. Gotta be more careful next time." "That's right," she agreed. "Now go find a mop bucket. He made a mess on the floor." "Uncle Victor won't like that," the guard said faintly, and he heaved himself to his feet. He looked over at me and asked, "Who's that? Why's that rabbit got antlers?" "That's nonsense," Miss Dahlia said firmly. "Rabbits with antlers? Absolutely not. There's nothing there." He looked away from us and muttered, "Nothing's there. Hey, where'd all that blood come from?" He started to look confused again. Miss Dahlia prompted, "You slipped and hit your head." He snapped his fingers and exclaimed, "All right. Damn, look at all that blood. Head wounds bleed like a bitch." Miss Dahlia sighed. You're fine, sugar. And she pushed him into the lobby. She closed the door behind him and whirled around to confront me, her dark eyes smoldering with irritation. She growled, Why are you here? You have absolutely no business being at the zoo tonight, and that goes double for being here in the reception area. This happens to be my living quarters. Did you know that? I literally sleep in that water, you intrusive idiot. You better have a damn good excuse, or I swear to each and every god in the heavens, I'll grab you by that skinny neck and beat that stupid out of you. I gawked at her with my mouth hanging open, and I was suddenly very afraid. There was no doubt in my mind that Miss Dahlia could easily pound the living shit out of me. She had dragged the security goon across the floor like he was made out of feathers. I mean, she was a supernatural being that slept in a pool of river water. Of course she could beat me up. I looked down on the floor and mumbled, I'm really, really sorry. Long story short, I need Casimir's address, his phone number too, if he has one. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a phone. I mean, he's, it's kind of weird like that. What for? She demanded. Must I remind you, it's against the rules. Y'all can't speak to each other outside of the zoo, sugar. Victor doesn't like it. I gave her a pleading look and said, I just really need to talk to him, okay? Believe me. I wouldn't break into the zoo at night for a laugh. I am 100% scared shitless of Vic, and I would absolutely not risk making him angry if I didn't have to, so please, just do me this one favor, please. No. Now go away before I punch you in the liver. I took a deep breath and held my arms away from my body. Go ahead then, I wheezed. Do it. Miss Dahlia gave me a considering look. Grudgingly, she answered, I already saved your narrow butt once tonight. You and that mangy rabbit, neither one of you should be here. As for Kaz, well, he's still on the mend from getting attacked by that ape. He needs rest. I gave her an indignant look and sputtered, Hey, he's not an ape, okay? He's not an orangutan. He's not a freaking gorilla. He's a Sasquatch. How would you like it if I called you like a pond fairy or something? You wouldn't like that. Miss Dahlia rolled her eyes and shot back, He's a smelly, flea-bitten ape, and you're a foolish little mouse with a death wish. Now get out of here! I'm tired. I threw my hands up and hollered, I'm in a tough spot over here, lady, okay? Just give me his address and I'll leave. I won't ever come back to the reception area again, I swear. Miss Dahlia patted me on the shoulder and said in a husky voice, Well, now let's not be hasty. She walked behind her desk and dug around in a filing cabinet. She called over her shoulder, If it's advice you're looking for, you should go talk to the skinwalker. He's always tripping into the spirit realm. The spirits can tell you anything you need to know. I perked up a little and asked, Does the succubus hang out in the spirit world by any chance? Miss Dahlia gave me a scornful look. She huffed, That shameless floozy. She's got it all hanging out across every plane of existence. She's a demon. They aren't bound by time and space. The water nymph glared up at the ceiling and yelled, I hope you heard that, you nasty old floozy. I hope you choke on a neutron star. I flinched a little and cautiously asked, I don't mean to pry, but why do you hate her so much? Miss Dahlia's eyes became distant. She wrote Kaz's address down on the back of an envelope and muttered, Many, many ages ago, she destroyed someone near and dear to my heart. A water nymph doesn't forget. And we never forgive. She handed me the envelope, and there was an awkward pause. I cleared my throat and said, Okay, I guess I'm off to pay Falling Sky a visit. Thanks again, Miss Dahlia. Sorry to bother you. She looked me in the eye and softly said, Men only come round when they want something, don't they? Well, good luck, Billy. Don't be a stranger. She reached into the pool and touched her fingertips to the water. As they made contact with the surface, she transformed into a woman-shaped column of liquid, and she flowed into the pool. This happened in a split second, there and gone in the blink of an eye. I leaned over the edge and saw a brief impression of a body beneath the surface, and then I was staring at a murky reflection of my own face. Vic's nephew came bursting in with a mop and bucket. He started to mop up drops and spatters of his own blood, grumbling curses under his breath as he worked. He didn't seem to notice my presence. Claire and I tiptoed around him, and we headed for the skinwalker's habitat. It was located in a special wing of the zoo. a ghoul-proof edition that had silver and lead poured into the concrete. It was designed for the undead and the never-living. It was known as the Other Wing. I was about to embark on the journey of a lifetime. I was about to trip into the spirit world. Falling Sky was sitting by the bonfire outside his hogan. He called us over with a grin, and he greeted the jackalope like an old friend. "This one, she's very special," he told me. "I'm glad to see her again. Been many hundreds of years since we last met." I gave them both a surprised look and asked, "How'd you meet?" Falling Sky lit his pipe and said, "I was living as a rattlesnake in those days. Came out to bask in the sun one morning. I was snatched up by an eagle. I was already in the air before I knew what was happening. Couldn't change back. We'd both fall to the ground. The eagle took me to her nest, and when she landed, I turned into a bear. I killed her with one swipe of my paw. So you see, the eagle soars high and far, but the bear will always come out the victor." I waited for more, but Falling Sky just sat there and nodded at me in a wise manner, squinting through a haze of pipe tobacco. Finally, I asked, "So, where does Clara come into this story?" Solemnly, he said, "Oh, I met her sometime after that. Think it was on a Thursday. Just saying, a bear will always defeat an eagle. They're too big." I saw the glassy sheen in his eyes and asked, "You're blasted right now, aren't you?" "I walk among the stars." He grinned, and he made wiggling motions with his fingers. Poof, jingle, jangle, in the sky they dangle. Right, okay, I'm just thinking that maybe I could, try some of that tea with you. Is that okay? Falling Sky slapped his hands together and rubbed them like a supervillain. He cackled, "I would be honored to be your guide. How far do you wish to go?" I gave him an uncertain look and shrugged at him. "I don't know," I answered. "All the way, I guess. I want to visit the spirit world." His gaze grew somber. He asked, "Are you sure? Such a journey, it changes people. Not always for the better." I gave him an unhappy look and said, "I'm not sure, no, but I feel like I don't have much of a choice. I need to talk to the succubus." Falling Sky looked alarmed. He held up a hand and shushed me, his eyes darting around in all directions. He whispered, "She is a monster that is feared by other monsters. The spirits can be frightening enough on their own. Why would you wish to come face to face with the eater of souls?" "It complicated. Look, just give me the tea, all right? I have to do this." Slowly, he said, "You're either very brave or very stupid. Either way, I'll be your guide. Drink this and brace yourself for what is to come." Tea was very hot in the tin mug, and it tasted incredibly fucking bad. I'd never tasted anything so bitter and strange in my whole entire life. I struggled not to gag on the first swallow. Falling Sky urged me to drink it all down in one go. I steeled myself against the taste, and I got it all down. It was fucking horrible. I cried out in anguish and struggled not to puke into the desert sand. Falling Sky handed me a wooden bowl filled with honey, and I poured a big, sticky mouthful of it directly down my throat. I gasped, "Oh my God!" I almost started to cry. It tasted that friggin' bad. It was just... oh boy, it was bad. I gagged again and sobbed. "Oh my God, fuck. Shit." Clara looked very concerned. She tried to nuzzle my face, and she almost knocked me off my log with her antlers. I gently pushed her down and said, "No thanks. I don't even get poked in the eye right now." "Yeah," the skinwalker mused. "I guess it is pretty horrible, isn't it? I suppose I could use some sugar or something. I've been drinking it for hundreds of years, so I don't really notice anymore." "Should have plugged my nose," I wheezed, and I wiped tears from my eyes. I added, I took a big risk coming here. I should have been killed at least twice already. Should I prepare myself for a third time? At least once more, yes, he agreed. But that's the thrill of the trip. Eagle versus bear, my young friend. Which will you become? I muttered, it doesn't matter. I'm already dying over here. I felt as nauseous as I've ever been in my life. I tried to control my breathing, and I focused all my will on not throwing up the tea. Choose, the skinwalker urged, as he leaned forward on his log. His eyes were darting around in their sockets at random, and he was smiling like a lunatic. I spat into the dirt, quavered, I choose machine gun. I'd blast both the motherfuckers and be done with it. How's that? Good gravy. This tea is the worst drink in the whole fucking world. Falling Sky gave me a deeply offended look. Sarcastically, he said, Ha ha, that's very funny. Are you mocking the ritual, you pasty-wad of seagull dropping? Better not be mocking the ritual, my friend. This is my heritage. I snorted. Come on, being a skinwalker is not part of your heritage. Your people disapprove of that kind of thing, don't they? Not like your parents set you off to Navajo witch school to get a degree in shapeshifting. A dumb thing to say. Well, you're certainly in a mood, aren't you? Falling Sky grumbled. It's not my fault you can't handle a little mug of tea. You even started crying. Don't deny it, I saw you. You're a whimpering little cry monkey. I gave him a sharp look and demanded, The hell's a cry monkey? You mean a cry baby? Yeah. Maybe I cried a little, but at least I never spent any time living as a snake. Let me tell you something, man. It's fucking weird slithering around in the sand and just like eating mice and lizards and, fucking scorpions and shit. Fucking why, man? That's just weird. He gave me an unconcerned shrug and said, Variety is the spice of life, little brother. I can see your mind is closed, but it will be open soon. Look down at your hand and tell me what you see. I looked at my hand and said, I just see my hand. I don't think it's kicking in yet. He patiently replied, Wrong. Look again. I still just see a hand? Look, I'm sorry. I was being crusty with you, man. It's been a long day. I'm up to my ears in, what the fuck? Holy shit! Right in the middle of my sentence, the structure of my hand became jarringly different. There were no longer 5-fingered flesh pods I was used to seeing at the ends of my arms. Instead, I was looking at a couple of scaly 4-toed monstrosities. My hands were now eagle claws. I was in complete shock. My legs were gone. In fact, almost my entire body was gone. I had feathers, wings, and a curved beak. I was no longer a man. I was an eagle, perched on top of a log, and the other log was now being straddled by an enormous grizzly bear. I looked over at Clara, a scream rising in my throat, but she gave me a completely unconcerned glance and went back to nosing around the habitat. Falling Sky said apologetically, It was either eagle or bear, and I prefer to be the bear. Are you ready to ascend? I croaked, I don't know, and gave my wings an experimental flap. I mean, I guess so. He chuckled. Your body doesn't ascend, only your heart. You don't actually become an eagle. You're just really high right now. I looked down at my eagle body in confusion and stammered, What about you? Are you really a bear right now? He patted his chest with an enormous paw and said, Yeah, I turned into a bear. I didn't have to, but I like to get into character. Let's go. We sat there and stared at each other for a bit, and nothing happened. At least it seemed like nothing was happening. But then I noticed that my log was no longer touching the ground. The habitat was gone. No bonfire, no Hogan, no Clara, no walls, just empty space all around us. The air was filled with dreary gray mist. We could have been floating 10,000 feet in the air, or we could have been sinking 10,000 feet below the surface. It was impossible to tell. I looked over at the bear and asked, Is this the spirit world? He shrugged his massive sloping shoulders and said, Yeah, probably. I never really know when I've arrived. It's always different. As he was talking, a large form appeared in the background. It resolved itself as one of the ghost deer that haunted the gardens outside the building. It was a doe. She trotted across the nothing and leaned down to nuzzle me. I told Falling Sky, I guess we're here. This deer is a ghost, after all. He patted the deer's flank with his paw and answered, Yes, I suppose so. I thought we might be lost, but we're definitely in the spirit world. You see, there is the world we live in, and then there is the spirit world. I believe there are many places beyond the spirit world, but that is not for us to know. I scratched the doe behind the ears with my beak and whispered, I need to talk to the succubus. Go fetch the succubus. Go. Falling Sky gave me a stern look as the ghost deer wandered away. He said, You don't want that, Billy Whitebread. Talk to my ancestors instead. They will have the wisdom of 10,000 years. I threw my wings in the air and yelled, I don't need to know about the migration patterns of the buffalo, my man. I've got a very specific problem over here, okay? If Vic gets to the succubus before I do, I'm probably fucked. I have to get to her and strike a deal. Hey, don't shake your head at me like that. This bullshit is completely beyond my control. Believe me, I'd rather be watching the tube and scarfing a cheeseburger right now. Well, I suppose she can't eat you over on this side, Falling Sky mused. But she can still scare the shit out of you. You're way too high to deal with that right now. I don't think you should face her until your mind is clear. I grumbled, Wish I could put it off, but I don't have much time. Come Monday, I might already be shit out of luck. A handful of solemn-faced Navajo people came silently walking into view. Falling Sky whispered, It's the ancestors. As they drew closer, he greeted them all by name. He pointed at me and asked, Do you have any wisdom to share with my friend? A tall, solemn-faced man drifted over and quietly said, On the night of the 7th full moon, you must gather your hunting party along the banks of the great river. You'll need 20 brave hunters, each of them burdened with as many arrows as they can carry. Make camp before dark arises, shortly after the moon sets. As the sun begins to glow in the sky, you will feel the herd approaching through the vibrations in the ground. I turned to Falling Sky and groaned, You see, this is what I was talking about. These guys don't know how to help me, man. They've been dead for way too long. No, I was just kidding. The Navajo spirit chuckled. Just fucking with you, little brother. My advice is to find the sex demon and strike a bargain with her. There's no other way if you want to live. I felt my wings droop at my sides in disappointment. I groaned. But I don't want to kill anyone. She'll want to sacrifice in exchange for a favor. I can't live with that kind of shit riding around on my back. Fuck. I wish I was talking to Kaz right now. He'd know what to do. The spirit gave me a guarded look and said, Casimir can't help you. See for yourself. The mist parted like a curtain, and I found myself looking into the living room of a small apartment. Casimir was stretched out on an old couch. He was wearing a grubby-looking tracksuit, and one of his socks was missing. At the coffee table beside him was a mostly empty bottle of vodka, stood behind an overflowing ashtray. Kaz held something against his temple. I heard a muffled click. I saw that he was holding a revolver, and my heart lurched in my chest. I sputtered, "But what the hell is he doing?" The spirit gravely shook his head. He murmured, "He does this sometimes when he's drinking at night. He loads one bullet, spins the chamber, and he pulls the trigger." I squawked, "What? What?" and started hopping around on the log in agitation. Casimir gave the revolver a despondent look and dropped onto the floor beside the couch. He rolled over and buried his face in his arms. The spirit waved his arm and said, "As you can see, Casimir is in no position to help you right now. Can't even help himself." The mist rolled across the clearing, and our interior view of Casimir's living room disappeared. I felt a lump forming in my throat. I croaked, "Oh, shit. Obviously not doing so good. Yeah, okay. I see. I won't bother him then. I'll just have to go talk to the succubus and deal with it myself. Thanks, man. I appreciate your insight." The spirit crossed his arms and said, "Well, spirits are rich with insight, but we're very short on cash. Please consider making a donation." I gaped at him in disbelief and asked, how do I donate money to spirits, and where would you even spend it?" "I'm fucking with you again." He chuckled. "Go and find your demon, Billy Whitebread. Be wary of her tricks, and the pleasures she offers you, or you risk being destroyed. One of the other Navajo spirits called out in the background, "But what a way to go!" and made vigorous thrusting motions in the air. The rest of them started giggling and nudging each other. "Don't listen to him," he muttered in a surly voice. "Some spirits think it's funny to mess with the living. From their point of view, it's not a big deal if you die. Anyway, I wish you luck, little brother. Come visit us again sometime. I appreciate speaking with the living every now and then. Makes me grateful for how easy it is to be dead." He gave me a little pat on my eagle head and faded into the mist. The others still giggling and making off-color jokes as they followed behind. I looked over at Falling Sky and said, "Well, I guess it's time to face the music. How do I find her?" Falling Sky pointed to the fog and said, "Just walk that way until you see her. In the spirit world, anything you want can be found in any direction. By the way, you're puking your guts out right now." I realized I was crouched on my hands and knees in the cold, gritty sand beside the log, and yeah, I was retching my guts out. A terrible way to snap back into reality, that's for damn sure. When it was over, Falling Sky handed me a rough piece of linen to wipe my mouth. I gasped, "You don't have a pack of gum laying around, do you? My mouth tastes like toxic waste." He raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do you see a variety store in here? Is there a supermarket tucked in that corner? Here, rinse your mouth." He handed me a tin mug of warm water. I spat it onto the sand and sighed, "Okay, I think I'm ready." I looked around the habitat and promptly closed my eyes. Everything around me was swaying and rippling, including the ground beneath my feet. It was a nightmare landscape of blurred edges and intense color. I could barely make any sense of my surroundings. I mumbled, "Holy shitballs, I'm fucking wrecked over here. How long is this gonna last?" He advised, "Don't worry about what you see, Billy Whitebread. Don't think. Just feel. Move in the spaces between here and there and ride the waves." Now, I frankly didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but his face was melting and it was freaking me out. I just nodded my head and told him, "It's time for me to go. Wish me luck." Falling Sky gave me a slanted smile and said, "Luck is all we have in the world of the living. Wisdom only comes from death. Good luck, Billy Whitebread." I headed for the exit, carefully, placing one foot in front of the other, and I whispered to myself, "Move in the spaces. Ride the waves." With every step that I took, it became more apparent that this was easier said than done. The spaces were moving all over the fucking place, and the waves were making me sway around like I was suffering from a brain injury. I suppose I was suffering from a brain injury in a way, but it was chemical rather than physical. The urge to puke my guts out hit me again when I got to the door. I had to close my eyes for a while and lean against the wall until the nausea passed. When I opened them again, all I could see was white. No walls, no floor, no lines or dimensions at all, just a blank void of white in all directions. I called out to Falling Sky in a panic, but he was gone. Or was it me who was gone? There was no way to tell for sure. I stumbled around and yelled my stupid head off into the featureless and merciless void, panic twisting my chest like a knife. Where the hell was I? And how would I ever get back? Was this it? Was this going to be my new state of affairs forever? I slowly became aware that soft music was shimmering from the empty air around me. It was a classical piano piece, a moody and somber composition in a minor key. A figure materialized in the distance and began to approach with a sultry sway of its hips. As the figure drew closer, I realized that was my 10th grade French teacher, Miss Florence. 15-year-old me had developed a secret lust for Miss Florence early in the year. She always wore her hair in a severe-looking bun. She had a different color of horn-rimmed glasses for every day of the week. She also possessed a pair of bowling ball-sized gazongas that strained against her dress jacket with alarming force. I often daydreamed about them in class, my eyes glazing over as she droned away in the front of the room. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief and stammered, "Miss Florence? Miss Florence, is that you? Are you dead?" She gave me a warm, inviting smile and stepped even closer. She purred, "Am I dead? Not even close. You've certainly grown since you were in my French class, haven't you? You're a handsome young man now. She reached out to trail a finger down my chest, and I nervously stepped away from her touch. I squeaked, "What are you doing here? Are you real?" Miss Florence raised an eyebrow and softly asked, "Do you want to find out?" She slowly undid the top button of her dress jacket. The next one. And then another. My former French teacher wasn't wearing a shirt underneath, and her cleavage was everything I'd ever dreamed it would be. My hand floated up from my side to reach for her. I snatched it back with the other one. I shook my finger at her and snapped, "Oh, you're not Miss Florence. You're the succubus, aren't you?" She put her hands on her hips and pouted. "Well, I think just about every woman is a succubus at heart, Billy. That's what you like to be called now, isn't it? Billy Whitebread. What a whimsical name. Do you remember anything I taught you back then, Mr. Billy? Come here. I want to give you a pop quiz." Miss Florence let out a giggle and pointed at my crotch. Despite my fear and a head full of psychedelic tea, I still managed to pitch a pretty decent tent. I covered it with my hands and circled around from her. She followed after me and crooned, "Don't be shy. Come here and let me make everything better." I stomped my foot on the nothingness beneath me and yelled, "I know you're really the succubus, so stop it. I don't want you to eat my soul, okay? It's not worth it." She curled her lips and demanded, "How would you know? Thousands of men have sacrificed their very existence to the pleasures of my embrace. Do you think you're above that?" "Look, I'm the most awkward guy you've ever met," I croaked. "Believe me, I'm not above it. I'm actually way below it. Stop trying to trap me for a second and hear me out. I want to cut a deal." She gave me a smile and shrugged her shoulders, making Miss Florence's bosom rise and fall in a hypnotic fashion. "Perhaps." "What is it?" "If Victor comes to you and starts asking about Vince, can you tell him you don't know anything about it? Maybe just, make up a lie or whatever." She gave me a predatory leer and asked, "And what do you offer in return?" I faintly muttered, "Can you just do me a favor this one time? I'll owe you one. You know what I mean?" The succubus gave me a scornful look. She growled, "I long for flesh beneath my teeth, not broken promises. Give me someone to feast on, or I'll tell Victor the truth." I rubbed my temples and groaned, "Come on, lady. Give me a fucking break, would you? I'm trying my best over here, I'm trying to do right and be a good person." She narrowed her eyes and hissed, "I'm not a charity, young man. I'm a demon from beyond time and space. Look around you. Where do you think you are, Disneyland?" I felt tears sting my eyes. In a broken whisper, I asked, "What if I let you drink some of my blood? I mean, not all of it, just some of it, just a little bit." Her eyes blazed a terrifying shade of purple. She leaned closer and breathed, "Lay with me, and then allow me to eat one of your arms." I croaked, "No, I need my arms. I'll lay with you, sure. And then you can have, half a pint of my blood?" She countered, "Give me a full pint of your blood," in a thick, greedy tone that made a shiver run down my spine. I shook my head and told her, "Only half a pint or no deal." The succubus moaned, "Oh, you're such a defiant little duckling, aren't you? It's a deal. Now come to me." The next 10 minutes were a wild ride, to say the least. I didn't have a lot of experience before this event, so all I could say is, holy shit, I was not expecting any of that. The succubus started as Miss Florence, but she kept fluidly transforming into different people in rapid succession. She became the moody-looking goth girl who worked at the Pizza Hut down the street, then Molly Ringwald, then some random actress from an old spearmint commercial. She finished as Miss Dahlia, panting with exertion as her dangling hair brushed against my face. When it was over, she stared into my eyes and muttered, "And now for dessert." Her mouth slammed into my shoulder, and needle-sharp teeth ripped into my flesh. I tried to scream, but she clamped her other hand over my mouth and held me down. There was nothing I could do but lie there and whimper as she sucked at the wound. When she was done, she lifted her head and licked blood off of my skin with a tongue like serpent. Her eyes were dark as slate, fathomless, completely blank. I felt like I gazed into those eyes and never stopped falling. The succubus traced her fingers across the puncture in my shoulder, and they closed up without a trace. She licked the rest of the blood away and whispered, "There, good as new." "Oh, don't look at me like that. Just a quick little sting, and then you're fine, see? Not a single mark left behind. Anyway, I'm bored of you. Put your clothes on and go back to reality." She stood there and looked me up and down with a contemptuous smile as I got dressed. She still looked like Miss Dahlia, and that somehow made me feel even more ashamed. The succubus held up her hand and said, "When I snap my fingers, you'll wake up in your bed, safe and sound." I hesitated and asked, "So, we're good? You won't tell Vic about anything about the Vincent situation?" "Oh, I'll take care of it," she assured me. "Now get out of my sight, you little worm. You have skinny legs and your blood is sour. Get some more vegetables in your diet." She snapped her fingers, and in the next instant, I was looking up at the ceiling of my bedroom. I was in my own bed, wearing pajamas, and felt well rested. I also wasn't high anymore, which was really awesome news. I didn't want to feel like that ever again. I was officially done with drugs once and for all. I asked the ceiling, "Was that a dream?" And for a moment, I genuinely didn't know the answer. I let my eyelids slide shut, and then turned over to go back to sleep. I started to drift off, but I was abruptly snapped awake by the faint squeak of my front door swinging open. My first thought was, "Oh shit, it's Len." I slid out of my bed and listened for a minute. It was quiet, but I knew he was out there, standing in my living room with his eyes locked on my bedroom door. I steeled myself for a shitstorm that was about to erupt, and I called out, "Is that you, Len? Really sorry, man. I mean, honestly, but I did what I had to, just let me explain, okay?" The door burst open and I gaped at my intruder in shock. It wasn't Len after all. It was one of the homicide detectives who brought me down to the station. We looked at each other for a moment, and then I demanded, "What the hell are you doing in my house?" He put his finger up to his lips in a shushing gesture and said, "You can't tell anyone I was here, kid. I need your help." I stared at him, not understanding, and then I asked, "Are you okay, officer? Shit, man. Is anybody okay? What the hell's happening out there?" He gave me a puzzled look and shook his head. "I don't know about any of that, kid. But me, personally, I'm in dire need of your help. Get dressed. I want to take you for a ride." Hey there, kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video. I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. This past year has been rough. I've been gone for quite a while trying to get things organized for my own life, and Patreon subscribers, you guys who subscribe everywhere, this has kept me afloat in turbulent waters. So I want to give a very special thank you to Jordan Humble, Diana Kraus, Disciple, Strategy Wolf Emoji, SullyMan, Brandon Mendoza, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, William Wellington, Scruffy the Janitor, Brenna, LaQueda Canizales, Smiley the Psychotic, Djenna, Dante Kinkade, SimbasBloodyMojo, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, M, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, VerbalHorror, Amber Clark, J. Kearns, Mike, himbojerry, Crusader Chocobo, Gordon Dallas, Estebean, Seclude, Salty Surprise, Red Shadowcat, Turtleman, Cryolinian, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Dirt Diver 030, Voice of Sand, Psychomel, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Sashi Suzaku, Croconut 509, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Hades Nephew, Acid System, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. To all you guys and everybody who's included in the description down below, thank you so much for everything that you guys have done for me, and thank you so much for being here when times get difficult and I can't always be around to make content. I really appreciate your support, and I cannot thank you enough. And that goes to everybody who watches these videos, that goes to everybody who's subbed here, and anybody who has ever liked a creepypasta story ever. I wish you all the best. Sweet dreams.